When I was young, I somehow knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to package it. I want to build something good, something that actually serves the community, and not one, like a couple of these things. Yeah. My name is Lumona Mulengwa. I am 23 years old and I'm a co-founder at Vis-a-Vis. Vis-a-Vis, it's a social enterprise that is bridging the communication barrier between the deaf community and the hearing community. So what we are doing, we are building a software that enables the two-way communication. It's there to enhance this two-way communication with no need of the hearing understanding sign language. I dove into this field of innovation without knowing what innovation was. I used to love repairing things. That has been like my genesis into this field of innovation. After high school, I got into a program called Global Minimum, which was actually here. And this is where like this thing was now like ignited well. So I dove into now technology more. Through that's when like I started now also this company Vis-a-Vis. In 2017, a friend of mine, he started telling me about Global Minimum. That's when like I was like, I want to be part of the next cohort. And Jimmy normally, they support like high schoolers or recent graduates from high school. So I applied and I became part of the robotics team. I was selected to be the robotics mentor for the next team. So among those team members of 2019, there was one called Eli. So him in Migori, he met like deaf students there, and now trying to share this idea about STEM, about innovation. It was kind of tricky, and he felt that gap. And I was like, oh, by the way, I was working on the same project. The aim somehow changed, because for me it was more of a cool tech, but then now it's when like we really experienced like the gap. So we saw it as an opportunity to now seriously push this thing. When we interacted with the deaf, and we realized that like there's a lot of information that they're missing, and that's when like we were like, let's now bring our project to them. We decided to create a Vis-a-Vis community of just deaf people and sign language interpreters. We have a group of like 100 and something of deaf people. We have been teaching them things like mobile repair, phone repair, design thinking, innovation. Because we know like, because they're actually brilliant guys, it's just that this opportunity never gets to them. I love tech a lot. For me, I normally say that I want to use these things for the better of humanity. So in each and every project that I have, I want to see that it's making a difference in someone else's life.
I have passion for issues to do with climate change, but it has always been a problem making that topic practical. I was brought up here in Mathare. When I went to school, most of the time we survived through feeding programs, but our schools struggled to provide that because there was no cheaper alternative to energy. A few years back, while doing a community work, mapping out my community, I realized that there was a lot of garbage, and this garbage, some of the materials could be used to provide renewable energy. I teamed up with other young people from my community, and we started Motobricks. My name is Calvin Shikuku. I am 24 years old, a green entrepreneur and the CEO of Motobricks Limited, which is a social enterprise providing renewable energy from waste. I am a young person who refuses to accept that it is impossible to change my situation and the people around me, and that is my community at large. So Motobricks, our renewable energy is in form of briquettes that we sell to community members, It's a cheaper alternative, it's eco-friendly, and it's also a way of encouraging our community to participate in the global agenda on climate change. Majorly, our target is food vendors, schools, which we've also started working with, and we also have households within Mathare, and very soon to other informal settlements. We started implementing the idea in 2020 after enrolling in a competition and getting seed fund to set up our operations and start producing briquettes. It was not easy because then our thoughts were, will this product be embraced by the community? It's a new thing in our community, but it made sense because our product was cheaper to other available alternatives. At first, many people did not know what briquettes were. We had to be patient, test with them, get their feedback, understand their frustration. But what makes us happy is the fact that our community appreciates that despite all the challenges we have within our community, we saw an opportunity, a challenge, and turned it into a solution to make renewable energy cheaper for members of our community and also be able to earn a living. Our customers have really been patient because when we started, we did not have much information. We did not know how exactly the idea will come into being, but they accepted and tried our products, gave us feedback that really helped shape the product and make it better. Motobricks, is also an innovation center. So we also support young people who have ideas that either provide employment within the community or want to invent in the space of climate smart technologies. So we support these young people to also start something and see their ideas become bigger and bigger. I also hope that young people growing up in places like Mathare will also be able to get decent work so that they can also earn a living decently.
The problem that Tech is trying to solve is that rural Africans lack opportunities to make a living. Yet, digital skills provide global opportunities. We are teaching kids computer skills. So we are teaching them these skills in the hope that when they graduate high school, they actually have enough skills so that they can work remotely for any company in the world. My name is Nelly Cheboy. I am 29 years old. I am the founder and CEO of Techlit Africa. I grew up in a small village in Kenya called Mogotio. I grew up in poverty. I grew up watching my dear mom work really hard to educate us. And so I became so fascinated to sustainably fix poverty. Because I was seeing it. I was seeing it in my community. I was seeing it in my classmates. I was seeing it in my family. And so in turn, I worked really hard in school. I was still able to graduate with an A, and from that got a scholarship to go to America. And so my third year in college is when I discovered computer science, and I fell in love with it. And so I started thinking about how I can bring that to my community. So I started collecting computers. And when I flew to Kenya in 2018, I brought 10 computers with me. I wanted to show my community how they can learn these skills and make money online. So I will go to all areas in the community. I will have a demo there on what they can come and learn. But meanwhile, we had kids just coming in wanting to use a computer, and we were able to grow. So we were seeing about 300 kids a day. And at the end of 2019, we were working with 1,200 kids. But then we quickly noticed that the people who were coming back were boys, because girls were staying at home, girls were helping with chores, and we knew that to ensure equal access, we needed to go to school. And that is how Techlit Africa was formed. So TechLead Africa partners with primary schools. We work with kids from PP2 all the way to class 8. And we work with both private and public schools because they're all our kids. And so what we do is that the school provides the room and we bring in the computers. When the computers get in the community, we ask the community to make the program sustainable. So we guarantee to them that once the computers are in the community, the program can run forever. We are preparing our kids to work online. We are preparing them to take advantage of the digital economy. As long as you have the skills and you know ways to brand yourself online, you can work from anywhere. And so we are preparing our kids for that future. We are getting them ready so when they graduate high school, they can start making money and they can support themselves and their families. And that way, we are lifting the community out of poverty. One of the most fascinating things that we are seeing is that with every school that we partner with, attendance rates go up. Kids are really excited to come to school. Kids are really happy about their computer classes. And kids
When I was young, I somehow knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to package it. I want to build something good, something that actually serves the community, and not one, like a couple of these things. Yeah. My name is Lumwana Mulengwa. I am 23 years old, and I'm a co-founder at Vis-a-Vis. Vis-a-Vis, it's a social enterprise that is bridging the communication barrier between the deaf community and the hearing community. So what we are doing, we are building a software that enables the two-way communication. It's there to enhance this two-way communication with no need of the hearing understanding sign language. I dove into this field of innovation without knowing what innovation was. I used to love repairing things. That has been like my genesis into this field of innovation. After high school, I got into a program called Global Minimum, which was actually here. And this is where like this thing was now like ignited well. So I dove into now technology more. Through that's when like I started now also this company Vis-a-Vis. In 2017, a friend of mine, he started telling me about Global Minimum. That's when like I was like, I want to be part of the next cohort. And Jimmy normally, they support like high schoolers or recent graduates from high school. So I applied and I became part of the robotics team. I was selected to be the robotics mentor for the next team. So among those team members of 2019, there was one called Eli. So him in Migori, he met like deaf students there, and now trying to share this idea about STEM, about innovation. It was kind of tricky, and he felt that gap. And I was like, oh, by the way, I was working on the same project. The aim somehow changed, because for me it was more of a cool tech, but then now it's when like we really experienced like the gap. So we saw it as an opportunity to now seriously push this thing. When we interacted with the deaf, and we realized that like there's a lot of information that they're missing, and that's when like we were like, let's now bring our project to them. We decided to create a Vis-a-Vis.
japo tuna tofauti,
kila moja wetu ana sauti. Tuinuane,
ushirikiano wetu,
tuinuane,
na ukaribu wetu. Tuinuane, tuinuane, tuko pamoja maishani. Tuinuane, ushirikiano wetu. Pamoja tushereke, sote ni washindi. Tuko pamoja maishani. Tuinuane, tuko pamoja maishani. Tuinuane.
Good morning once again, and welcome to the 11th launch of Safaricom's Sustainable Business Report. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. We're coming to you live from the Michael Joseph Center, and welcome to those of you now joining us online, streaming live on YouTube. This is exciting because, of course, we are looking at Safaricom's commitment to things society, environment, and of course, this has been a journey it has walked over the last 10 years. I'd like to also introduce my co-host for this morning, Godwin, who is our sign language interpreter. We also want you to keep the conversation going online. The hashtag is Sustainable Safaricom. So today's theme is partnering for growth, transforming lives. And this is really a reflection of the Kenyan proverb, sticks in a bundle are unbreakable. And what that essentially means is the world's biggest problems cannot be solved by one individual or one institution. It has to be a collaborative effort, whether they be economic, whether they be societal or environmental. All right, so on that note, let's get into a quick and fun activity, some trivia, just to test your knowledge on the SDGs. I hope everyone in this room knows what SDG actually stands for. All right, so let's head over to kahoot.it. So I encourage you to pull out your phone, open up your browser, and put in Kahoot, Kahoot.it, and it will prompt you to put in a game code. There you are, game pin 8097836, or you can scan the QR code using your camera and it will take you right to the game page. So we have a couple of questions and we have some airtime for our winners today. So hopefully you are ready to go. Quite a few have already logged in. Kilonzo, Kane, Nyangi, keep them coming in. And we'll also have the leaderboard showing the scores as we go along. Fantastic. So we'll give you a couple of seconds to populate the screen. We are coming in thick and fast. Great, great, great. Again, the game pin 8097836. Great. All right, so I think we can move to the first question on SDGs as people continue to make their way into Kahoot. And these are pretty simple. At least if you are playing in this space, you should know Sustainable Business Report questions or related to environment. And the first question is, how many hectares of forests are destroyed globally each year? Take a wild guess. We're counting down. Answers are coming through. Great. Is it 1 million acres, 30 million acres, 10 million acres, or 15 million acres? The number of hectares destroyed globally each year. The answer is 10 million hectares. Wow. All right, to the next question. This is the scoreboard so far. So Test, I don't know who that is, but Desire is at 938 points. Pablo coming in close with 914. All right, let's see how we do on the second question. What is the focus of SDG number 3? Is it poverty, food security, good health, or gender equality? All right, the answers are coming in. Great. A couple more seconds to go. 3, 2, 1. Let's take a look at some of the responses there. Good health is the correct answer and very close to food security. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. Sam leading with slightly over 1,700 points. SDG champion, that is quite bold. You better be the winner with that name. And Diplomat with 1,587. Next question. Which of the goals below focuses on achieving sustainable development through partnerships? Is it goal number 6, goal number 17, 12, or 15? All right, 10 seconds to go. Answers coming in. Seems that we know this one. 5 seconds to go. Focuses on achieving sustainable development goal partnerships, which is big on what we're talking about today. Goal number 17. Great. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. Sam, still leading. 2,731 points. SDG champion, close second. All right. Let's move on to the next question. Second last. What is the target achievement date for the SDGs? We should know this. If we've been following, you don't have to be part of the UN to know this. What year is it? 2050, 2030, or 2060? Less than 10 seconds to go. 92 answers in so far. All right, let's take a look at the answer. Pretty obvious. I don't know who put 2060, but it's fine. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. Sam still leading. Do you have any insider information, Sam? All right, let's go to the last question. Which are the 3 dimensions of sustainability? Environmental, social, behavioral, economic, environmental, socioeconomic status, physical environment, social or biological, or economic, environmental, and social. 5 seconds to go. The answers are still streaming in. All right, let's take a look at the answer. Economic, environmental, and social. Final look at the scoreboard. All right, SDG guy. Okay, congratulations, SDGs champion. And number 1 is, surprise, surprise, Sam. Great, and so if you can take a screenshot of your results and send them to eventsagency2@safaricom.co.ke. There you go. And we will get some airtime to you for participating. Wonderful. On that note, I'd like to introduce our first speaker for this morning, Mr. Stephen Kipnitis, who is Safaricom's Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, to make his remarks. Round of applause for him.
Thank you for the drum roll. I've always wanted a drum roll when I'm being introduced, so. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Safaricom. Welcome to the launch of our 11th Sustainability Report. We are really proud to be launching the 11th edition of our Sustainability Report. It's one of those things that we hold our heads high, not because all the things in the report are excellent and fantastic and positive, but because it's about honesty, it's about accountability. It's about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So here goes. Our chief guest, Ambassador Macharia Kamau, Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, members of our Safaricom Board of Directors, my CEO, Peter Ndegwa, all the other CEOs who are present here this morning, members of the Fourth Estate and the blogging community, my Safaricom colleagues, invited guests, those joining us virtually, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to host you as Safaricom at the launch of our 11th Sustainability Report. We've been hosting this event for the last 2 years virtually, so it's an absolute pleasure to have this physically this year. Last week, at a media immersion, and I was having a chat with the Fourth Estate, and I was telling them that the launch of the sustainability report is really the tail end of a process. It's the icing on the cake. There's a whole process that goes into taking those ingredients, baking the cake, and getting to that point. And that's the process of engaging in all those requirements that feed into the report. And so this is sort of the celebratory end of the sustainability journey. For us, it's about sharing what our business has achieved, some of the things that we have done well, some of the things that we could have done better, and some of the things that, frankly, we didn't do well and we need to just change how we do them. It gives us an opportunity to celebrate what we are putting into the economy in terms of social impact, in terms of financial impact, in terms of uplifting and engaging with communities, ensuring that Safaricom is not just celebrated as a corporate titan, but as a purpose entity that is living purpose in every day. It also forces us to confront some of the difficult truths about what we could do better as a business. And that's the part of holding the mirror up and realizing that, maybe we need to go to the gym for a workout. We're a bit overweight. I'm sure that many times you would have looked in the mirror and thought to yourself, I could do better. And that's what this is all about. That's what Safaricom is doing through the sustainability report. And so I'm going to speak about the why we do this, the how we are doing it, and make a few closing remarks at the tail end of this. So our ability as a company to positively impact social and environmental change is a really crucial aspect of businesses today. At Safaricom, we are confident about taking the lead in this, but also at the same time inviting other businesses to join us on this journey. It's a journey that allows us to celebrate our wins, our challenges, and also gives an intimate description of our business. We live today in a much more transparent world than in the yesteryears, and it makes it easier for our stakeholders, our shareholders, our customers to hold our business to account to the things that we say we will do. It opens us up to being asked those tough, fundamental questions. Why didn't you do this? Why did you do this? And how can we do it better? And so this journey is about documenting what we have done. It's about sharing our challenges and successes in a public, open, and transparent manner. And that's why we have invited you all here today. The publication of this report is also to just raise awareness of sustainability challenges, the challenges that we face as a society in our country. There's a lot of good that all the corporates in this country can do. And I don't mean large corporates, I mean all corporates. Sustainability is not for huge, big, profitable companies. It's for the startup, because there is something that each of us can do. That startup which becomes a Safaricom, think about how that impact of sustainability when they are a startup to the point where they become a Safaricom would be over the years. The how of our reporting. It's not good enough to make claims about the levels of sustainability. At Safaricom, we have gone out there to provide tangible, credible demonstrations through following the proper guidelines for sustainability reporting. Our Sustainable Business Report is prepared in accordance with what is popularly known as the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative, which is one of the most widely used standards for sustainability reporting. This is really to say that you can't go out there and create your own standards of how you want to report. You have to be held to account, and one of the ways that you can do that is through a GRI. We also engage in what is called sustainability report assurance. And this is the process of ensuring that our sustainability report meets certain minimum standards. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a painful process because it allows an independent party to look at our report and tell us, oh, come on, you're being a bit too rich here. You perhaps need to be a bit more about what you are saying about yourself. It also allows us to use what is called the KPMG True Value methodology. And this, again, involves getting an independent party to assess the total value that we are claiming we are creating in society over the year in question. And so we invite them to look at what it is we have said we've done, and they assess the value and come up with what is an assessed fair value of what we have done. The report also serves as our communication in progress. It's an explicit responsibility of our continued membership of the United Nations Global Compact and the Global Compact Network in Kenya. So what are the highlights of our 2022 sustainability report? Victoria has already said that the approach is that of sticks that are tied together cannot easily break. And therefore, we are stronger together, and we can do more to transform lives together. And that's why, again, as Safaricom, I like to use these words, we've taken upon ourselves the role of being evangelists about the need for sustainability and therefore sustainability reporting. In our sustainability activities, we do partner with many others. Many of you are in this room. We have partnered with you in our sustainability initiatives, leveraging our connectivity, leveraging on the platforms that we have, on the technology that we think we're really good at, to realize our strategy of making Safaricom a purpose-led technology company by 2025. In this, we are guided by the SDGs, and specifically 9 of them. We're working our way towards the 17, but specifically 9 of the SDGs are what guide us in that journey. So this report covers the period 1st of April 2021 through 31st of March 2022. So our business has continued to contribute towards improving the quality of life of Kenyans across the country. As I indicated, the KPMG True Value methodology has conducted an inclusive assessment that is built on a foundation on exploring what are the new solutions that we could engage in, what are the new ways of creating value that we aren't already doing, that we could do so. For this report, the True Value Assessment calculates that Safaricom has sustained over 214,000 direct and indirect jobs in the period under review. And if you look at the wider effects on the economy, that number would increase to well over 1 million jobs, which is an increase of 9% from the previous reporting period. Some of the key initiatives that have supported this, and you will read this in our report, is our continued commitment to supporting local suppliers. We have increased our overall spend in local suppliers in the period under review by 3%. We have enhanced our procurement spend on women-owned, women-led businesses, and this is at a stable 2.29%, and we're really looking at enhancing that much, much more aggressively in the year ahead. Our target is to ensure that, that figure for women-owned businesses in procurement can move to a figure of about 10%. The number of women participating in tenders, unfortunately, has reduced from 71% to 55% on year. Obviously, when we tender, you sort of expect a robust amount of responses, and if that has reduced, then it means there's something that is not happening right, and something that Safaricom is trying to look into to figure out how can women continue to tender for the procurement processes in Safaricom. One of the key barriers is access to finance. And in this regard, we've therefore established partnerships with entities like ABSA, Citibank, Equity Bank, the Kenya Commercial Bank, and indeed the Safaricom SACCO, to provide some of those supply chain benefits to our women suppliers. As part of our ongoing commitment to the SDGs, we also continue to work towards improving energy and our resource efficiency in our network and facilities to reduce our carbon emissions. Obviously, as a technology company, typically we would have very high carbon emissions. We have done quite well to try and reduce the carbon emissions in the last 1 year, and we have increased our overall emissions just by 1% in the period under review. This is important in order to arrest climate change. so that it moves from mere speak to actual actions. We need to protect our environment. And so accordingly, Safaricom has made a bold commitment to become a net zero carbon emitting company by 2050. I dare say that 2050 is in the mid-horizon. And I suspect that by then, Safaricom, being aggressive as it always is, will move from a target of being carbon neutral to being carbon positive. We can't just sit with a target that we set many years back and say that we're going to be carbon neutral. It's about making big, hairy targets, and we will move into a carbon positive target in due course. Environmental consideration is strongly linked to our purpose, and one of our ongoing priorities in our carbon offset reforestation program. And accordingly then, the aim is to plant 5 million trees by 2025. In the last year, under review, we have planted just over 300,000 trees, which brings the sum total to 1 million trees. So we still have about 4 million trees to go in the next 3 years. In conclusion, our achievements, setbacks, and targets, and details of this will be gone into by my colleague Karen, are a sign of our commitment to operating a sustainable business. And this is the promise we're making to our broad-based stakeholders. There's still a lot to learn. We could plant more trees. We could convert a lot more of our diesel generators into solar-powered generators. We could do a lot more to giving more business to the youth and to women. And this process of establishing our commitment to sustainable business fits squarely in our business strategy to recognize that commercial and business-driven approaches create the lasting economic growth that is needed to address social needs and empower communities. 11 years ago, Safaricom went out on a limb and committed to running a sustainable business and went ahead to say we want to be audited and we want to create a report, hence the 11th edition. We are chuffed as Safaricom to see that a few more organizations have committed to joining us on this journey, chief among them the East African Breweries and the Standard Chartered Bank. This journey is a journey of 1,000 miles, as the Chinese would say, and we started this journey 11 years ago. We have no intentions of stopping. We have every intention of getting more people to join us on this journey. We must commit to doing this all together for the good of the planet and for the good of our future. A former US president said, "The world must learn to work together, or finally it will not work at all." Safaricom is intent on making the world work for us together. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Applause for Safaricom's Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, Mr. Stephen Kiptines. And as he said, Safaricom really wants to be the evangelist when it comes to sustainability and sustainability reporting. It's been on this journey, as he said, for the last 11 years, but not alone. They've had partners along the way, and this next clip will show you more of that work. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our next speaker, the Safaricom Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Peter Ndegwa.
Good morning everyone. Sounds like I got a louder clap than my corporate affairs head. Anyway. Good morning everyone. Before I start, I should say that Victoria, I think you got the brief. You came in with the Safaricom green. Is it a coincidence or it's just knowing your audience? When we were doing the Kahoot exercise, for those, especially those in the room, many of you, I don't know whether you realized, actually the answers were on the screen. All the Sdgs are actually there. So some, I hope that you are not copying onto the screen. But anyway, I thought I should start on a lighter note. So our chief guest, Ambassador Macharia Kamau, we've worked together in the past many times, especially helping you host some of your guests from abroad. Principal Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, members of the Safaricom board who are present either here or online, fellow CEOs today who are joining us, my Safaricom colleagues, members of the media, those who are attending online, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. For those in the room, good morning. I can't hear the guys in the online. Delighted to be welcoming all of us this morning again. And this is, I hope you are all safe. This is a real milestone when we are launching the 11th Sustainability Report. This morning, someone sent me a picture of the late President Darian Arap Moi signing a visitor's book when we were opening the Safaricom office. That must have been in early 2000. So Safaricom was very young at the time, and some of you who have been present by then know the journey that this business has taken. But I think the couple of things that Safaricom has been known for, one is a brand that is ubiquitous and a brand that is a household name across the country, but also a brand that cares about purpose. And that's beyond the fact that we are a big company and a very successful one for that matter. We have really had huge impact on communities in which we operate in. Many people, when they ask me, Safaricom is large and so on, I say we are large because we have made a big difference in society. We continue to combine the power of innovation and technology to solve customer challenges, but also societal issues that society actually face. And last week or 2 weeks ago, we had the big milestone to open another business and have a new baby being born, literally, even the advert as it says, in Ethiopia, and we hope that we'll take a similar journey. And that journey of 1,000 miles, as Steve has said, will also start and allow other Kenyan companies to follow on our path in the second largest country in Africa. So today I want to talk mostly about leading from purpose, but also partnering, because there's no one who can do this alone. So thank you for coming. So as my colleague Steve has shared, our sustainability business report is all about transparently talking about our successes and our setbacks, all of which are important to our business and the interest of our various stakeholders. And that's the reason why 11 years ago we decided showcasing both the good and the bad. But the bad is to help us to be able to improve in years to come. This year's theme is about partnering for growth, transforming lives. It's about recognizing the power of partnership and collaboration in solving societal issues. and driving responsible and sustainable businesses, whether you're a small business, a medium-sized business, or indeed a large business. Now more than ever, we are called upon to use this power of partnership to support the society that we serve. The reality is that we continue to face interconnected global challenges, and there's no time than now that we face. And as we shift from the surviving the impact of COVID-19 pandemic to coexisting with COVID, economic growth continues to be impacted due in large part to the war in Ukraine, the related impact on commodity prices, and the associated increase in import costs. And we're already feeling it both here in Kenya, but across Africa and beyond. In addition, and Safaricom and many of our partners, actually in this room, but also beyond, have been involved recognizing another poor rainy season in Kenya, hampered crop production, further compounding the economic situation. Despite these challenges, we continue to show resilience and commitment to ensure that we remain a purpose-led and responsible and sustainable business that transforms lives of the people that we serve. Let me talk briefly about partnership for growth and innovation. To be a responsible and sustainable business, you need partnerships. We all need partnerships. None of us can do it on our own, whether you are a government, whether you are private sector, and beyond. From our 22 years of experience, we've witnessed this firsthand and continue to do so, and you'll have seen from the video many examples of partnership where we innovate using our core strength, which is technology, to really deal with some of the challenges that face our society. Our current mission as a company is to accelerate new growth areas. We've been successful in connectivity and also in payments and to some extent credit, but we need to go beyond that to be able to broaden the ability of customers to access other services using technology. And also we need to do that in a way that also delivers great customer experiences. So as we digitize our experiences, we need to ensure that our customers experience the best. We want to be a purpose-led technology company by 2025 and beyond. For us to achieve this, we know we have that shared value partnerships are crucial. We want to leverage these partnerships to further promote socio-economic inclusion and impact areas such as agriculture, economic empowerment, education and health, and many of which are part of the SDGs. As a sustainable business, we know that the power of innovation is in impacting. We know the power of innovation in impacting the areas that I've just mentioned. Innovation helps us to stay ahead of the ever-changing environment and to be more responsive to our customers, colleagues, and community needs. As I often tell my team, unique is good. A functional solution that solves a societal problem is even better. We need to think about digital and technology, not so much because of technology for its own sake. And that's also one of the things we normally talk about internally. Technology is only relevant when it allows us to solve a challenge that exists in society, and either for customers, but also the broader society. As you'll read in the sustainability report, we are leveraging the power of partnerships to design, to co-create, and to develop meaningful products and services that deliver social impact and unlock new opportunities that align with our priority SDGs. We've chosen 9 SDGs out of the 17 to be able to focus on specifically as part of the way we do our business. It is through such innovations and partnerships that we've seen the value we create for Kenya society increase to 727 billion Kenya shillings, approximately 10 times greater than financial profit on a net basis. During the reporting period, our biggest innovation, M-Pesa, which celebrated 15 years, also celebrated 30 million customer mark, monthly active customers. And I dare say that since then, we've seen another 2 million join the franchise. And we saw its social value, this is the social impact of M-Pesa, increased by 14% to 275 billion Kenya shillings. Internally, our agile ways of working, and this is where we bring together commercial talent and tech talent to solve customer or societal challenges, which fosters collaboration across the organization and speeds up decision making, is not only helping us innovate better and faster, but also bringing us closer to our customers. Let me talk briefly about partnering for community and the planet. Perhaps the most important partnership piece is the contract that we have with our society and with our planet. We cannot do business if the society around us is failing, and we saw that during COVID, or if the environment is in turmoil. This is why we continue to partner with our community through our two foundations, the Safaricom Foundation and also the M-Pesa Foundation. As you'll see in the report, our Safaricom and M-Pesa Foundations continue with their work to transform lives, partnering with local and national authorities and others to make tangible differences across all levels of society. The two foundations have now impacted 4.2 million Kenyans in the past 3 years, with a target of reaching a further 6 million by 2025. When it comes to the environment, we've seen unprecedented global climate events in the past few years, with a growing impact on the African continent, contributing to food security. Kenya has not been spared with the current drought situation affecting more than 4 million in 23 countries. And I have myself been to Marsabit and Isiolo, so I've seen firsthand how this is impacting community. In response to this, we've launched Pamoja Tuungane campaign, which aims to complement the government's initiatives by providing emergency food relief. We've also worked with government to transfer money for free through M-Pesa, worth approximately 1 billion Kenya shillings. We set aside 100 million Kenya shillings as Safaricom for relief food, which we distributed in Marsabit to kickstart the campaign, and then called upon other corporates and Kenyans to donate cash and bonga points, which raised another 12 million. Last week, we were in Isiolo to distribute food purchased from this latest donation, and so far we have reached more than 100,000 people across the two counties. And this is just the beginning. The campaign also received plenty of in-kind support from other corporates in the form of logistics, as well as awareness campaigns in various media houses. We also, a lot of our partners in the Pamoja Tuungane are represented here, including partners such as KCB. We are now in talks with the Kenya Private Sector Alliance to see how we can push this further to include more corporates and broaden the appeal. We are also discussing about partnering to implement not just the short term, which is the emergency efforts, but also long-term measures to tackle the perennial issue of drought. Let me talk briefly about Africa Business Leaders Coalition Partnership. Whilst we discuss these measures, we are fully aware that climate change has been blamed for the current drought. While businesses cannot stop famine or alter the course correct of climate shifts already in motion, we can adjust our own behavior to help mitigate this crisis. However, this requires partnerships, not just to tackle climate change, but partnerships that help drive sustainable growth and prosperity of our communities. As part of fostering these partnerships, we are honored to be among the founding members of the Africa Business Leaders Coalition, convened by the UN Global Compact. The coalition provides a platform for Africa businesses to have a unified voice as we actively engage to work on the continent's most pressing issues. Ahead of COP27 climate conference to be held in Egypt in November, the coalition will focus its efforts on climate actions through climate statement to be signed by all members. I'm happy to announce that Safaricom will be joined by several companies present here as we make our commitments to the coalition and to the climate statement. We will hear from the CEOs and representatives of some of those respective companies shortly. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, Safaricom is committed to integrating a purpose-based approach to sustainability and to taking a shared responsibility for achieving a better world. I would like to thank our shareholders, our board, our communities, our business partners, our regulators, and the government who enable us to continue to provide services that keep Kenya running. I'm grateful to our customers who remain core to everything we do, but also to our employees for their dedication. We'll continue to combine the power of technology and innovation and leverage partnership to reimagine ideas, products, and processes, and co-create solutions, especially in a digital world, that meets the needs of our current and future customers over the next decade and the future. Be sure to read about all the valuable lessons as captured in our sustainability report about how we continue to meet the needs of our customers and our communities, as well as protect the planet for the present and the future. I really thank you for coming here this morning, those who have come physically, but also online. And let's partner together for a better world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One more round of applause for Safaricom CEO, Mr. Peter Ndegwa, reiterating the importance of leveraging on the power of partnerships. Now, we heard a bit earlier on that in the year that was under review, Safaricom managed to plant 300,000 trees. And we want to see a bit more on what this tree growing effort looks like in Kieni Forest. Take a look.
As a purpose-led business, we know our future is interconnected with each other and with the planet. One of our ongoing priorities is our Reforestation Program, which aims to plant 5 million trees by 2025 in order to rehabilitate 5,000 hectares of degraded forests.
Kieni Forest is one of the major catchment areas. It plays a big role, and especially in supply of water.
Kuna watu walikuwa wanafanya chakobani, kuna wengine walikuwa wanafanya longi. Wakati huo mvua haikukuwa inapatikana.
The public-private and people partnership between IFCMS, Kenya Forest Service and the local community forest associations aims to rehabilitate degraded forest zones.
With Safaricom, what we're trying to do is now focus on the monitoring of reforestation effort. There are certain parameters experts look at. How tall is a tree? What is its diameter? What is its crown? So we are developing technology that will be able to acquire these parameters very easily so that a forester can continually monitor the progress of these trees.
Thousands of indigenous tree seedlings are sourced from the community forest associations who also tend to the saplings.
The fertilizer which is being used by the community, it's also used by the plants. So the plants moves very fast.
As an added value within the partnership agreement, local farmers have some zones under agriculture cultivation that benefits communities in food production and other socio-economic gains.
Kitu mimi kinanifanya mimi niwe proud sana ni kuona watu wetu wote wameinuka kutokana na hii mradi ya Safaricom.
Deserves a round of applause. Fantastic work there by Safaricom in conserving the environment. I hope you're still tweeting. The hashtag is Sustainable Safaricom. I've been taking a look at some of the tweets. Do we have airtime for the most tweets? No? Okay, but we encourage you to at least engage on social media. Now, our keynote speaker for this morning is Ambassador Macharia Kamau, CBS, and he was appointed as the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and that was back in February 2018. He's a career diplomat with rich experience, and prior to that appointment, he served as Kenya's permanent representative to the United Nations in New York since 2010. Now, as the permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Kamau was instrumental in developing the Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development as the co-chair and co-facilitator. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker, Ambassador Kamau, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Victoria. The last time I saw so much green, I think I was in high school. I was in a house where we wore green. It looks lovely, by the way. Yes, I come from a company called The Government, and we take our business very seriously. Sometimes too seriously, as I can see all of you are taking that seriously. I'm really happy to be here. I really appreciate the invitation. Mr. Ndegwa, and your team. I also want to appreciate all the other CEOs who are here. Mr. Russo, who tells me he's from Rome, Samburu. And for those of you who know, well, it's okay. I won't explain that one. Just to say that this for me is always a very emotional moment. And you may ask yourselves, why? The SDGs were never meant to happen. And one of the questions that should have been asked is what's the connection between Kenya and the creation of the sustainable goals for the world and the 2030 agenda that has become the driving agenda for global cooperative development? How did little Kenya become this engine of thoughts and ideas for the world? And it's true that we were instrumental, both through our ministries here, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but also through my presence and the presence of my team in New York, to help the world put together the Sustainable Development Goals, a process that took us 3 years of intensive debate. We were not supposed to succeed because nobody believed it was possible to agree on a global set of goals for the world. And these goals are the first in the history of humanity to put all of humanity on one set of goals with one agenda. And one of the biggest challenges that we were facing at the time was, of course, disbelief and a lack of understanding of how the world thirsts for leadership, for cooperation, for something better that then has been happening throughout the 20th century. And those goals that you see over there were an attempt to try to reach out to every single human being and every single community and every single living creature on the planet. Now that sounds extraordinary, and that's because it is. There's nothing on planet Earth, whether it has to do with trees, an ant, an elephant, we ferocious human beings who are destroying this planet, there is nothing that wasn't captured in those goals. And this was agreed upon by 193 countries on the planet. And Kenya was smack in the middle of it all. I heard the question, why 2030? Why 2030? Why not 2040? Or why not 2060 like the AU? Because there happened to be an influence, and we were looking at the model of our own development agenda and thinking how we can take the ideas of President Mwai Kibaki, who, as you know, was the great thinker behind our economic platform and our economic framework for development and try to give those ideas global meaning and global relevance. So 2030, even though it was a 15-year time frame that the UN wanted to work with, worked very well with the thinking that we were having as we were trying to provide leadership for this process. I can tell you a lot of people, particularly in the UN community, did not believe that the business community would ever come on board. There was deep cynicism. Business was about making money and about making profits and about shareholder assets and enrichment. It was not about serving people, planet, prosperity, and fighting poverty. But we all came to realize very, very quickly that indeed, businesses, once you scratch just a little bit beneath the surface, all recognized that without a concerted effort to uplift humanity from poverty and degradation, without the concerted effort to create greater prosperity for all, that business themselves would ultimately fail. And the greatest joy for me at that time was to step out of the streets of New York. We used to work in a basement, so you can imagine 3 years in a basement. And one day you come out and you're looking around and you see on one of those great buildings, and this particular building was on 2nd Avenue and 42nd, owned by Pfizer, and right there were the Sustainable Development Goals, plastered up on the building walls. It took my breath away. I was jogging to the gym, and I stopped, and I stood back. And I thought to myself, I cannot believe this. After what we had been through, the pain, the anguish, the disbelief, here was one of the most conservative corporate entities on the planet, embracing the Sustainable Development Goals and recognizing the value and the transformative power of these goals for business and for profit, even as they serve humanity. And this company, Safaricom, was an integral part of that transformation. Because while we were struggling to find corporate leaders from around the world who were going to come and help us make the case for bringing together corporations in the world, there was Safaricom, Bob Collymore, sitting with us in New York, telling us why he thought that he himself, with his history, with his experience, with Roiro River, which was a beautiful place when I was a kid. We used to go to 14 Falls and fish. Now you go to 14 Falls and watch foam because of the pollutants in the river. But we have all to take these individual decisions as individuals to embrace every single one of these goals to make sure that we make this planet a better place for all of us. And Safaricom has begun to do this and has continued to do this. The report that you heard today, which was read to us, or at least introduced to us by Stephen Kipnanes, this idea that they are evangelists, champions for change, for saving the planet, is an extremely noble idea. And that they make efforts to connect their business model to the goals either through Goal 10, reducing inequalities, you heard them all listed here, or through Goal 5, promoting gender. After all, how many women now are better off and more prosperous at the bottom of the ranks of society because they have access to a smartphone that has Safaricom apps in it? How many? Countless in Kenya. How many of us are more effective and more efficient because of all of this? And efficiency brings prosperity, and prosperity uplifts all of us. The number of jobs that have been created by this company and its associates, the innovation that has driven financial inclusion through M-Pesa and other initiatives, reaching out, as you saw here, with MTIBA and other initiatives, reaching out to the environment. Every little bit of this helps to make this world a better place and to create greater prosperity for all of us. This was the idea in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, when we adopted the goals, and 2015, when we finally adopted the global agenda. This was the idea. And every CEO in this space, in this country, needs to ask themselves how they can do better to make this work better for all of us. Some of us in government, because we have too much gray hair in our head, or on our head anyway, still work with paper. I see everybody coming here with high tech. It's very impressive. When all of you were told to do that little challenge at the beginning by Victoria, I was fidgeting with my phone. I was like, no idea what to do. But that's a sign that the world has fundamentally transformed in a very short period of time. Because when I was the age of maybe the average person in this room, none of this technology was around. And I mean none. So I don't feel too bad. I actually feel quite impressive that I'm reasonably functional. But moving forward, I do want to tell you that we're not doing very well on planet Earth. We're not doing very well. The climate crisis is no longer a joke. It is no longer up for debate. And we all have to come together to realize that we need to do things differently. It is upending very mature and deep economies in the world. Let alone us. And if those economies are being upended, and if those societies are being disrupted, because it's about climate disruption, what about us? How are we to sustain our prosperity, our growth? Safaricom contributes, I'm told, about 5.7% to our GDP, or some such number. The climate crisis is destroying between 2.5 and 4% of GDP every year. Go figure what that means. It means we are running to stay in the same place. We have lost over 67% of our biodiversity since I was a kid. we used to start to do game viewing from Nairobi West. Yani tukielekea Mombasa, ama tukienda airport, game. Yes. When you landed at Nairobi Airport in the early 80s, as late as the early 80s, you saw giraffes, zebra from the plane, from the window of the plane. And the captain, usually British Airways, Kenya Airways, would say, "Oh, look, we are in Africa." And everybody would look out the window. Giraffe, zebra, antelope in Kenya. The last time I took my kids down, which was about 5, maybe 10 years ago, to Mombasa, I was very excited. Got myself a new SUV, I want to show it off a little bit. Piled my children in there, off to the holidays. I said, it's going to be what I imagined it used to be when I was a kid. I went to primary school in Mombasa. And some years, my parents would drive us down there. And it was an adventure. This time, we got past Athi River. We still hadn't seen nothing except ng'ombe za Wamasai. We got past Athi River, and we finally saw an animal. And it was dead. And it was a hyena on the road. We got a little further, began to see a few deers and antelopes, just then nothing. And it wasn't until past Voi, finally I saw an elephant. And I was just overcome with despair of what we have done. The 3 planetary threats that are upon us, that are upon you, that are upon our families, are the climate crisis and disruption, nature and biodiversity loss. We have lost entire forests, and with them, birds and bees and all kinds of life-enforcing creatures. And the third great and horrible threat is pollution and waste. These cancers that we're all struggling with, these diseases that we're all struggling with, are because of the pollutants in our environment. We have been warning about this for years. But it seems that the world is tone deaf. And that is why companies like Safaricom are so important, because they are swimming against the current. They are challenging the world to see things differently. So as I conclude, because we in Gava have lots of talking time, let me end with a couple of things. As you keep what I said in mind, yeah? The first is that these great companies, sir, must not be complacent. You guys are hot in your green kit, green emblems, nice building. There's nothing that undermines companies like complacency. I went to school in the United States, as you can tell from my terrible accent. And when I was there, Detroit was an incredible city. They used to call it the motor town. One of the biggest, most powerful engines of economic development in the United States of America. Every company that was building a car felt it had to be based in Detroit because of the backward and forward linkages and so on and so forth. 15 years ago, Detroit was dead for all intents and purposes. They were down to making watches, and in fact it was a charitable, sort of quasi-charitable event. People had moved out. People had turned lawns into gardens to survive. Detroit. Technology came and did a number on the motor industry. Competition came and did a number on the American motor industry. An entire city the size of Nairobi went belly up. Think about that. Another famous city when I was a kid was called Rochester, New York. Big global company. It used to make cameras, Kodak. Used to call it the Kodak City. Kaput. Don't rest on your laurels, good sir. And don't let your staff rest on their laurels. Because once you get there, you think you're all that. And then it turns out you're not. And it happens very fast. Let me come back to the second thing, which is my second warning. That really, please, these three triple crises that I spoke about, embrace them, champion them, integrate them into your business models. It is for you. It is for your children. It is for the survival of this planet. It sounds like rhetoric, yeah? It's a warning. And like I said, if those huge economies, massive economies, are being shaken to their core, this is a message for the rest of us. But let me end on a positive note, which is my third point. The opportunities are tremendous. They are tremendous. But you have to think at scale. You have to think at scale. Kenya is just not big enough for Safaricom. Kenya is just not big enough for KCB, for the Nation Media Group, for Kenya Airways. You ought to be, and should be, a continental force. You have to think like this, guys, or else you will be wiped out by the force of other companies from other parts of the world. You have to strategize. And we in government are working double time to try to create that opportunity for you through the East African community. My friends, every shilling you earn, between 25 and 30 cents of that shilling that's in your pocket comes from the fact that we are in this East African community. That's what regional integration does to economic development, which does to your income. Take our community seriously. Invest in it. Grow in it. Integrate yourself to it. Use it as a launchpad for the next community that we are trying to set up for you, we as governments. The Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement. It's there. We just exported the first batteries and tea last week. It's your market. If you think your market is to move from here to Kajiado to... things are tight. The opportunities are tremendous on this continent. And it's virgin territory. You just have to go to some of the countries on our continent and you will know it is virgin territory. Waiting for you, some of the greatest entrepreneurs on this continent. Waiting for you, some of the greatest investors on this continent. Waiting for you, some of the most hardworking and entrepreneurial people on the planet. Waiting for you. This is our opportunity. It really is. And we must seize it. This company must become a continental powerhouse if it is to truly realize its full potential. And all the companies must begin to think strategically how to use the government platform and the government opportunities to project themselves out there. Because those companies that have done so have seen profits grow exponentially. And if you want me to name them, I'll name them for you. But government speak for too long. Happily, I will say this, that one of those moments when I realized we are a special nation with a special people, with a truly transformative capability in the world. Yes, in 2013. Then again in 2015. Because I happened to be there, not because of any other reason. I'm sure there are many, many other examples in the world. The other moment was during COVID, most recently. This country has transformed itself in the last 2 to 3 years. Our global presence and how we are understood and respected in the world changed fundamentally, because it was during COVID that somehow we realized the incredible benefit of the foresight of the digital and fiber optic network that we have in our country. Countries that were richer than us, deeper in their economic and social integration than us, were struggling because they hadn't invested. They hadn't had the foresight of the fiber optic network that we have in Kenya. And so, what happened? Government didn't stop. Services were continued. Entrepreneurs were still able to function and make their living. Hospitals were being built at historical rates in Kenya during COVID. Classrooms were being built at historical rates in Kenya during COVID. And most of that coordination and cooperation was on the back of a digital fiber optic network that allowed Kenyans from the north, the south, the east, the west, and every single county to speak to each other. This is a great country, my people. We are a great people. But it's like religion. You have to believe it. Thank you very much.
Wow, another hearty applause for our keynote speaker, Ambassador Macharia Kamau, Principal Secretary, Foreign Affairs, with a sober reminder of where we are as a planet and the reason why we just can't afford to be complacent, especially at this time. I think I gained a greater appreciation, and many of you in this room and watching, for what it took to develop those SDGs, from a basement in New York to now what is a global movement. Now, moving on to our next session of the program, we've heard a lot about the report. What is in it is the question a lot of us have in this room. And our next speaker is going to, for lack of a better term, open up the servers, okay? So that Safaricom is not accused of being opaque with their reporting. So I'd like to invite Karen Bassier, who's the Director of Sustainable Business and Social Impact here at Safaricom, to take us through the report. Round of applause for her.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Ambassador Macharia. You've said it all. I feel so under pressure to deliver after your fantastic speech. But thank you for reminding us where the journey started, and thank you for giving us the reality on the ground. So good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here this morning to share with you the key highlights of our 11th Sustainable Business Report. And yes, it's been 11 years of sustainability action, sustainability reporting, and always putting the mirror in front of us, as Steve said. And this job has not been done by one person. It's done by 50 plus champions across the business, 100 data owners. So I'm gonna try summarize what 100 people have put together to deliver this report. The team is led by Steve Giftines, who's our Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, and we are supported by our champion, Peter Ndegwa. So thank you so much, Peter, for giving us the space, giving us the time, and also being able to keep us accountable as we walk this journey of sustainability in Safaricom. All right. Steve already mentioned part of this. We use the GRI reporting framework. The SDGs were a blessing to Safaricom. And from 2016, we started integrating the SDGs in Safaricom. And our dream at that time was that anybody who works in Safaricom would see that they do more than just coming to work. They transform lives, and they use the 9 SDGs on the board. So the SDGs give us the framework in which we make sustainability a reality. Over the years, we are now able to do trend analysis. We have longer periods. We can see how we've been performing year on year for the last 11 years. The report is balanced. We give the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we have made bold targets as we move forward, and bolder commitments around innovation, employees, customers, and our material issues. So in the year under review, this section covers the numbers, if I may call it that, and I have only chosen to focus on people and environment because Steve and Peter gave you a flavor of some of the numbers. So under the people section, we are not doing so badly because you can see the greens compared to last year. The only part that we need to improve is the employee engagement. The number of staff that are engaged have gone slightly down, and I'm sure Paul Kasimu here is working hard to ensure that this will not happen in the next financial year or in this financial year. When I look at environment, it's a mixed bag. We've had good wins around waste management and the likes, but our carbon emissions have gone up by 1% simply because the network is expanding, but the team is working hard to ensure that we do not let the emissions outgrow. And we have put in place measures, we've put in place things, for instance, deep battery recycling. So if there's no power, it will not kick straight into a generator. We'll first have the batteries kick up, and then generators are our last option. And I hope by 2050, in our net zero ambition, which internally we are working with 2030, is to ensure that we don't have these generators. And Kenya is blessed to be a hydro and geo producing company. So once the partnership with Kenya Power goes above the fiber, the power can stabilize, and we'll be in a good spot in the climate, in the carbon footprint. Both speakers, Steve and Peter, have talked about our true value assessment. We continue to monitor and measure our contribution by assessing what value we've given to society, and we've done this since 2015 using the KPMG true value methodology. And this bridge just highlights what we look at when we announce the financial performance of the company and how that financial performance then spreads across, cutting from the value we generate from M-Pesa, the value we generate from the foundations, then the environmental externalities that take away this value. And so in the year under review, we have grown the value 10.4 times greater than the profits we made in the year. We work across 5 material pillars or issues in Safaricom, and allow me to give you a flavor of what was material and what we discussed in the year under review. The first material issue is governance, business ethics, and risk, and I can see Nick here, our colleague Nick Mlila, who helps us bring this pillar to life. In this pillar, in the year under review, we've had greater collaborations with the banks. This collaboration started in 2018, and in 2021, we have collaborated with the SACCOs in the same space. When I look at subscriber registration, so under Communications Authority initiatives, we've partnered around subscriber registrations, where we've launched the online registration portal. This was launched just slightly after the financial year, and we've been working hard on Know Your Customer. When I look at the future, what are we looking at in this space? We are looking at protecting our customers and their privacy, ensuring safety and security of our systems, processes, and ecosystems around Safaricom. We are looking at safeguarding the revenues, of course, through a robust revenue assurance process, and then we are prioritizing fraud management and data privacy. Under the regulatory environment, regulatory universe helps us to improve compliance. We work with 10 key regulators, the lead regulator being the Communications Authority, and we have seen lots of shifts in this ecosystem as we expand our products and services. And as a business, we are continually looking at ways to strengthen our engagement with the regulators to ensure the highest standards of transparency and protection, and we do all this for the future of this company as well as for our customers. When I look at the key highlights here, we achieved 98% approval rate of business tariffs, promotions, and product applications. We were able to secure the 5G license. We've also had the best quality of service, that is at 95%, surpassing the regulatory target or measure of 80%. When I look forward under regulatory environment, I see the Finance Act in the horizon. This is something that the team will be looking at, and we want to have 100% subscriber verification compliance. So if you're here and you've not subscribed, kindly subscribe. Our platforms are big for us, and when I look at what we've achieved in the platforms, the network coverage continues to grow, indoor location updates so that wherever you are in an indoor area, you can still access our services, and also the fiber growth across the country. Under financial inclusion, we were able to launch the M-Pesa Super App and Pesa Halal in this year. Then over and above that, we have the base video and music platform that now has over 700,000 customers. When we look ahead, it's to continue transforming M-Pesa into an open platform. We want to grow Pochi La Biashara registration. We are working on a big health end-to-end platform. So for now, it's under the innovations, but we want it to grow and evolve into a platform. And hopefully from next year, we'll be reporting it here as a platform and also revamping DigiFarm as we move along. When I look at environmental stewardship, here we have done well in waste recycling, e-waste recycling. The numbers are growing. Responsible production and consumption. We do segregate our waste, so we are way ahead of the regulator. Affordable and clean energy, we are pursuing this, and climate action. And I like what Steve said when he was here about net zero by 2050. We've already started working on net positive. So we've just not given the net positive a date, but we are sure by 2030, when we are net zero, we'll have already started the journey to being a net positive company. When I look at partnerships and innovation, in the year under review, we've had great partnerships. You saw that on the video, so I will not go into the details of the partnerships. So what are we looking at? Peter has explained that we are looking for more strategic partnerships. As a business, we totally believe in the power of partnerships to transform how we work and how we are going into the future. We want to establish a research and innovation team. This is just rejigging the innovation team and the research team so that we have a solid team that can lead us into mining these opportunities from the SDGs with the partners. Then we want to reach 2 million customers on a digital hub and also scale the existing innovations that are within the business, and over and above that, purposely use M-Pesa as the main platform for our shared value products that we are innovating on as we move ahead. We work across 7 key stakeholders, but I will only give you a flavor of one stakeholder, that is the customer. So we have the business, the enterprise customer, and we have the consumer customer. What are the issues of concern for the consumer customer? The 5G phone affordability for those who are at that level, but the other customer is just trying to get into the smartphone network. Then we have service reliability, fiber, wireless. They want quick access to support, and I've seen Lucille around here. This is her main support, where she's helping us as a business become customer obsessed as we move on. And then they want value for money and products that they get from us because of the economic pressures that the customer faces. When I look at the enterprise customer wants accurate, easy to understand bills. He does not want to, or she does not want to spend time trying to figure out our billing systems and that kind of thing. They just want that bill in an easy and understandable way. When I look at the future, I see us continuing to accelerate growth in new areas for the customer to add more value, so value-added services for the 2 customer groups. I see us increasing digital engagements with our consumer business customers. I see us developing a 360 view of the customer, from the customer call center to the retail center, just having a good view of the customer and the customer being able to access us. From the enterprise side, I see enterprise automation. I see IoT and development of more IoT and ICT platforms that anyone can plug in, including the government, and also becoming the enterprise partner of choice for all our business partners. Ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, that is the content of the Sustainable Business Report 2022, and everyone will be given a copy. Please read. If you have feedback for us, send us the feedback. We are happy to engage. We are happy to hear from you. Thank you so much. Over to you, Victoria.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive report and look at this year's Sustainable Business Report from Safaricom. Now, we heard from our keynote speaker, Ambassador Macharia, that the climate crisis is not a joke. It is no longer up for debate. It is the case for right now. And honestly speaking, the climate conversation is not just the preserve of environmentalists. It should be at the center of corporate boardrooms. They should be driving the agenda. And Safaricom has committed to doing that, getting players and partners in the public and the private sector who are in this room with us today to get on board, to append their signatures to the talk that they have been putting forth over the last couple of months when it comes to sustainability. So before we get into that exercise, I'd like to invite our next speaker, Ms. Judy Njino, who is the Executive Director for the Global Compact Network Kenya, just to take us through the importance of having corporate on this cause for climate action. Round of applause for Judy.
Thank you, Victoria. Allow me to first start by acknowledging Ambassador Macharia Kamau, Principal Secretary, Foreign Affairs. And thank you so much for always walking us down this memory trip around how the Sustainable Development Goals came together. It was no mean feat to really get the global community to agree on a common set of goals for our common future. Peter Ndegwa, Safaricom CEO, also a board member at the Global Compact Network Kenya, chief executives present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good morning. Good morning. So allow me to start by congratulating Safaricom for the launch of their 11th Sustainable Business Report. Over the years as Global Compact Network Kenya, we have been on the sidelines watching the growth and the engagement of Safaricom alongside 280 other corporates in Kenya, advancing corporate sustainability as anchored within our Global Compact principle areas touching on human rights, the environment, labor, and anti-corruption, capsuled within our UN Global Compact principles. So it's really encouraging to see, the progress that you have made, but more importantly, the level of disclosure and really allowing yourselves to engage with your stakeholders across the different pain points that you continue to face, but as well as in the success areas that you continue to register. I also want to thank Safaricom for the support and the leadership that you have taken to steer the Africa Business Leaders Coalition, which is a UN Global Compact platform that we've been able to put together to really advance a Pan-African movement for business leaders to engage in the issues of sustainable development and really bring the spotlight on Africa's issues to the global stage. The Africa Business Leaders Coalition, as I said, is a Pan-African platform that seeks to bring 50 to 80 business leaders who have committed to actively engage and drive solutions to Africa's most pressing challenges. This year, we have the privilege of hosting COP27 here in Africa, and so we thought it was an opportune moment for all of us to focus on the climate crisis and a number of issues that come alongside the impacts that we are beginning to see, including those that we are facing here in Kenya, touching on food security. And so, with the COP27 just a month away, we seek to bring the coalition members to come together to support a climate statement that will outline key actions to meet the Paris Agreement, as well as support Africa's transition towards a 1.5 future. And so I'll just briefly read the commitments that we're asking the business leaders in this room to really commit to within your business operations, as well as extend the same to your ecosystem and your partners at large. At the Global Compact under the Africa Business Leaders Coalition, we are calling on corporates to commit to uphold the UN Global Compact 10 principles in the 4 key issue areas I've touched on human rights, the environment, labor, and anti-corruption, because we firmly believe that to deliver the sustainable development goals, we must follow a principles-based approach, and we must acknowledge that those 4 key issue areas truly represent the fundamental responsibilities for any corporate that claims to be responsible. And so we call on you to engage with the Global Compact Network based here in Kenya, that is actually the platform that is responsible and that is available to you all to understand how to translate your corporate commitments to the 10 principles as well as to the sustainable development goals. We are also calling on you business leaders to develop robust company resilience plans to improve our adaptive capacity as well as build systemic resilience by explicitly accounting for climate risks in your own business operations as well as in your ecosystem. We know Africa is least responsible for the climate crisis, but we continue to be faced with the deepest impacts of this climate emergency. And so the onus is on us to look at approaches and ways in which we can come together to build resilience as well as our adaptation capacity. We are also calling on each and every one of you to commit to uphold the guiding principles of a just transition, starting with your own company-level just transition plans. Of course, acknowledging that the transitions that will be required, to take us on a path of, climate protections sometimes will require us to take into account the impacts on livelihoods as well as workers' rights. So we ask you to look at the 10 principles as a guiding light to help you mitigate against any risks that might result from any transitions that might impact people and communities. We also call on you to commit to set company targets to drastically increase the share of renewables in your energy use, contributing to our continental ambition of 27% of renewable power generation by the year 2030. We call on the international community to fulfill and enhance the $100 billion pledge by 2023 at the latest, and ensure that at least 50% of these funds are invested in adaptation and resilience. We know as we go into COP, we will need to have very difficult conversations with the global community, and more so with the countries that are truly responsible for the climate crisis that we face. And for countries in the global south, financing will be a critical aspect of the discussions around how we can be able to be supported to build our resilience. But for, I think, businesses domiciled within the continent, it will also be important to see how we can raise our own finance and repurpose our resources to ensure that we are responding effectively to the climate crisis. At the same time, we call on African governments to translate climate plans, such as their nationally determined contributions, as well as the national adaptation plans, into pipelines of bankable climate projects. We call on the international community to promote technology and knowledge exchange to make decarbonization and adaptation technologies and knowledge more accessible to local companies, communities, and governments. If COVID didn't teach us a lesson, I think the climate crisis will teach us a lesson that we need to open ourselves up to partnerships and to multilateralism to ensure that we're able to effectively address our challenges as they become more common to all of us. Lastly, we commit to elevate the voice of the African private sector, as well as bring the African perspective to global challenges, to the global stage, such as the one we have at COP27, to advocate for the sustainable prosperity of our people, our business, as well as our continent. So to the business leaders presented here today, this is our call to action to each and every one of you to see how can you look at your own company operations and how can you begin to put in place those climate action plans within your own operations, but as well as within your ecosystems, and bringing a whole of society approach to help us truly create the world that we want. So we look forward to working with you in this journey and helping you make sense of what these climate commitments are, as well as the responsible business principles as anchored in the UN Global Compact. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Judy. One more round of applause for Judy Njino, Global Compact Network Kenya Executive Director. She has now made the call to the business leaders in the room to answer that climate call to action. Thank you so much to our keynote speaker who has to take his leave. We appreciate your presence today. Now, what we're going to ask is for each of the business leaders to take us through what their companies have done in regards to sustainability. But beyond that, you're going to see a very big board coming up on stage, and they're going to put their signature there. And this is a physical commitment to what they say they will do as a company and as individuals as well. So our first speaker is the Group Chief Executive Officer for KCB PLC, Mr. Paul Russo, to take us through what his company is doing. Round of applause for him.
Thank you, Victoria. I thought I'd gotten off the hook after those powerful speeches by the gentlemen. I know that Ambassador has left. I would recognize him in his absence. And Peter Ndegwa and the leadership team of Safaricom and the entire staff. Leaders joining us this morning, media teams. Got my colleagues, Judith must be here, that leads this initiative for us. Just a few points so that I can save time. Peter, you and I have been working in the new world order to try and rebuild this relationship, build our partnerships. And as a new CEO, thank you so much, for that opportunity and that engagement, as well as with your teams. I'll put someone on the spot. You also have somebody in your leadership team that was my former boss right behind you, Paul Kasimu. So no pressure, Paul. It's just that we have to partner. I think picking up from where Captain has left, he spoke about evangelism. And now when I stand here, I think it's an interfaith crusade, having been led by Safaricom. So we come in to state out our position. It's about partnership. So I'm glad to represent the other green here in this interfaith crusade. I think for KCB, just coming, I think it's 3 weeks to COP27 or thereabout, to reemphasize our commitment and, commit to Africa Business Leaders Coalition and to deliver on those initiatives. Normally, my team asks me to read certain things, and I keep saying I try to digress, but today, because it has numbers and I don't want to be misquoted, I really have to try and make sure that I stick to the brief. We have been making great strides on UNEP FI principles for responsible banking since becoming a founding signatory member in 2019, and the principles of responsible banking, where we are a signatory. We do actually undertake an annual carbon footprint assessment to monitor internal resource consumption to keep our carbon footprint within the 10% reducing trajectory. And we do make our commitment on net zero, by 2050, pushing on the famous 2030 target at the moment. But most importantly for us as a bank is to screen credit facilities for environmental and social risk. I think Ambassador didn't mention, picked out Nairobi River, picked out Thika. And I think as bankers, if we don't lend responsibly, if we don't cut out that pollution, if we don't screen our facilities to make sure that we are not adding more damage, then we will be doing a lot of disfavor to this country. So we want to ring fence, review everything going back, but make sure we have standards going forward. And therefore, we have actually assessed 336 billion in the last 2 years. And you also know the central bank guidelines on climate-related financial risk management procedures were out, and therefore we are also bound by those guidelines. And actually, we must commend the regulator for going out of the way to make sure these guidelines are available. In 2020, KCB was accredited by the Green Climate Finance within the medium to large category band to advance climate finance to strengthen climate action. KCB will be able to fund projects between $50 million to $250 million under the GCF fund once we clear all the modalities. Again, we're looking to make sure that 25% of our loan portfolio is actually towards green projects and is evaluated. I think to move to a closure, 8,500 staff, I think there is opportunity for us to do a lot more using those resources to deliver on our commitment based on planet and people. So you can count on us to partner with yourselves. And I think at the end of the day, it is the value of coming together and not to steal your thunder. Peter, you can count on KCB support on partnership into this coalition of leadership. Thank you so much.
Thank you once again to Mr. Paul Russo. We now request if you can append your signature on this board that has 4 commitments to climate, and we'll move it to a center area of the stage. Fantastic. And on it, you have adaptation and resilience, just transition, mitigation, and a fair share dialogue. Mr. Paul Russo there, KCB CEO, signing on behalf of the organization. and himself sitting at the helm of the organization. Fantastic. And he will now place his signature on the board. There we have it. The first commitment there from KCB. A round of applause. Mr. Paul Russo. Yes, and you may join him, Peter Ndegwa, Safaricom CEO, to solidify this commitment. One of many partnerships, certainly, between KCB and Safaricom. A handshake, not the one of 2018, but a handshake indeed that takes this forward. Fantastic. Gentlemen, you may take your seats. Thank you so much. And calling on our next speaker, Mr. Sadiq Hassani, Group Managing Director of Bamburi Cement, to let us know what they're doing in the manufacturing sector.
All right, good morning. As I have only 2 minutes, would you allow me to say all protocols observed so that I can save some time? So, sustainability in Bamburi is not new. It was created in 1951. And already at that time, the logo was a baobab tree, 1951. In 1974, we have rehabilitated the first quarry, 1974, which is what we all know as Bamburi Haller Park, 1974, way before starting to talk about climate change. So it is not new to Bamburi. However, there is a sense of urgency which asks us to change gears in order to accelerate this green growth. So at Bamburi, we have decided to act on 4 main pillars in order to decarbonize our industry by acting on the whole value chain and ecosystem. So the first one is to decarbonize our own operations. You know that we use a lot of fossil fuels in our operations, and the first objective is to reduce the level of fossil fuels by using more alternative fuels, biomass, and it requires a lot of partnerships, counties, municipalities, in order to collect, for example, the municipal waste and transform them into energy in our operations. Second way to reduce our CO2 footprint within our operations is to use more green energy. We have signed a PPA to build a solar plant for our both plants, and it will be commissioned in the Q4 of 2023. The second pillar is to build better with less. You know that the main component on cement is clinker, and it is the main responsible for CO2 emissions. So we need to reduce the amount of clinker that we put on cement without, of course, deteriorating the quality of cement. It requires, again, a lot of partnerships, but also a lot of changes within the standards that we have in Kenya. And within Bamburi, we will be launching very soon a new brand for all the low CO2 cements with the brand of Eco Planet. Building better with less goes also through innovation. We have started a few days ago to build the first compound of 50 houses using the 3D printing technology in Kilifi County. The beauty of it is beyond the objective of building affordable houses, is that this building or this house is EDGE certified by the UN agency, and it is also recyclable. All the materials are recyclable. The third pillar is about making the buildings sustainable, and it is about decarbonizing our own cities. Biodiversity, water, these are the main components of this objective, and we would like to scale up what we have done in Haller Park, in all the other quarries. Planting trees is important, but creating the full ecosystem is even more important. And our objective by 2030 is to be biodiverse positive. And the last objective, but not least, is to create a virtuous circle by building new with old, which requires using construction demolition waste as a raw material in our processes or as an additive in our in cement. It requires, again, some amendments within the standards. So a commitment is only, I would say, a wish if it is not measured. So without giving you a lot of numbers, but I will give you a few commitments which are measurable, and you can also track them. The first one is about our CO2 footprint. Our objective is to move from more than 500 kg per ton of cement, which is the baseline, to 467 by 2030, with the ultimate goal, of course, to be carbon neutral by 2050. The second objective is on power, and to have 30% of our energy coming from our own solar plant. The third objective is in terms of low CO2 cements, and to reach 80% of our product portfolio being low CO2 cement or eco-planet brands. And the last but not least is on water, to be water positive by 2030, and to reduce our level of fresh water withdrawal to from more than 70 liters per ton to 19 by 2030. So by doing this, I am convinced that we will have a very positive impact on the people and on the planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hassani. If you would approach the board to append your signature on behalf of Bamburi Cement. Some key commitments there from your company to decarbonize operations, as well as using green energy, more green energy in your operations, building better with less, and of course, making buildings more sustainable. Mr. Sadiq Hassani, the Group Managing Director of Bamburi Cement, committing to climate action on behalf of his company. And of course, he also will be joined by the Safaricom CEO to solidify this commitment on climate action. Fantastic. You may join him on stage. And a round of applause for this commitment from Bamburi, a key partner in Safaricom's sustainability journey. Thank you so much, Mr. Hassani. You may take your seat. And to our next speaker, I want to invite Mr. Lak Ochieng, Managing Director of Unilever Kenya.
Good morning. Thank you, Safaricom. Thank you, Peter, for inviting us onto this journey. So for Unilever, as you may know, we have a purpose of making sustainable living commonplace. And it is a purpose that we have across the whole world. And as we try to live that purpose, we want to win with our brands, being a force for good, powered by purpose and innovation. And we break that into 3 pillars. Number 1, getting to improve the health of the planet, and that has several elements into it. Number 2, improving the health of our people, confidence and well-being of our markets and where we operate. And number 3, contributing to a fairer and more inclusive world. But for today, coming back to improving the health of the planet, our climate action goals have 3 pillars as well. 1, and within that there are commitments that go with that. We commit to 0 carbon emission from our own operations as Unilever internally by the year 2030. Number 2, we commit to have greenhouse gas footprint for our products across our value chains, similarly by the year 2030. And number 3, we commit to net 0 emissions from all our products by the year 2039. And the reason why that is longer because it goes across the value chain, from the sourcing of materials that we use in our production all the way to the point of sale that we put out in the market. So those are the 3 commitments that we are making, and I'm coming to repeat that today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ochieng. If you can approach the board to append your signature. And of course, thank you for highlighting some of the actions you are taking as a company to reach net 0 emissions on all your products by 2039. And of course, as all the business leaders have said, these are markers we can track over the years to see if they do indeed meet them. Having the greenhouse gases as a company and of course 0 carbon emissions by 2030. Fantastic, and he'll now put his signature on the board. Finalizing and solidifying this commitment and partnership with Safaricom, joined by the Safaricom CEO. Round of applause. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for joining in this partnership with Safaricom. And to our host of the Sustainable Business Report launch, the Safaricom CEO, Mr. Peter Ndegwa. I'll call on you to join the stage once more to give us the commitments, of course, for Safaricom. Round of applause for him, and of course, we'll bring the board up as well. You will now append your signature on the board. Fantastic. And of course, we saw a lot of the markers. Mr. Peter Ndegwa now signing on behalf of Safaricom. And we saw a lot of the commitments in the Sustainable Business Report, the highlights that were brought forth by Karen Bassier a bit earlier on in the program. This is now the climate commitment to 4 key areas: adaptation and resilience, just transition, mitigation, and of course, fair share dialogue. And this will go a long way in crafting the messaging for COP27 in a few months, rather weeks, in Egypt. Thank you so much, Mr. Peter Ndegwa. Who will join? I think we can have the other CEOs join. Karen Bassier. Thank you. and she will hold the CEO accountable in this cause. Round of applause. Safaricom making its climate commitment. Thank you so much. You may have your seats. Wonderful. So we've seen the physical commitment from the business leaders led by Safaricom this morning, and we'll hold them to account. I've kept some mental notes on some of the commitments from the various business leaders, and of course, this is what we'll be following. So this is now the unveiling of the report. So we saw some of the findings. We'll now hand over the physical reports to some of our key guests. Now, you see the drums coming up in the front. And in African culture, as we know, drums represent a call to action. So even now, as you're hearing the drums slowly being beat, we hope that that sound spurs a need for action, for you to join in this cause to respond to climate crisis. The drummers are called the Slum Drummers. They are a community-based organization from Dagoretti. And they use their music to change the minds of young people in the communities that they operate in. They have played across the globe, in Europe, Africa, and they're no strangers to the Michael Joseph Center, as they've been here before. Now, as we are preparing our minds and hearing the drum beats to eventually put our signatures to this climate action cause, I'd like to officially announce the launch of the Safaricom Sustainable Business Report. Fantastic. I'd like to call on the Safaricom CEO, Mr. Peter Ndegwa, to join me here on stage as we hand over the physical report to Ms. Judy Njino, the UN Global Compact Network Kenya Executive Director, as well as Steve Kiptenes to also join us on stage as we commemorate this wonderful occasion. Fantastic. Congratulations once again to Safaricom and its commitment to sustainability, not just in Kenya, but in Africa as well. And joining them on stage, Karen Basse, Stephen Kiptenes, can you kindly join the CEO? Fantastic. And we'll get a couple of copies to them as well as we commemorate this occasion. Judy, kindly make your way back on stage. Great. And we can have the ladies at center so we can create some balance of sorts. Wonderful. Thank you. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the official launch of the Safaricom Business Report. Wonderful. And I'd like to call on the business leaders in the room as well, Mr. Sdgs, if you can join us on stage, as well as Lako Chieng and Paul Russo for this final photo of the report. If we can get a copy to both the gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you, and here we go, partners, key partners in this sustainability journey. Fantastic. And you may all take your seats. Thank you so much for your presence in this morning. And of course, giving your commitment to this partnership and this journey on sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of this event. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time as well. A quick request for our CEOs, if you do get a chance to do a short picture with your boards on the back of the room, that will be greatly appreciated. We also have an opportunity for our other guests who are in the room to also sign a board. So we'll have them available. The team will show you where to go to append your signature and give your climate commitment today. And of course, the Slum Drummers will give us a performance as we close out. Keep the conversation going on social media. The hashtag is Sustainable Safaricom. Breakfast is still being served in the cafeteria area, so please indulge if you will and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.